Last night I managed to get my Godslayer title from doing the final Pantheon, the -20 Nezarec Sublime, and I just wanted to talk about what makes it so good, and maybe a couple of things that might be better if something like this did come back, and just a general thoughts video. First of all, -20 Pantheon is like really fun. I wish Bungie considered this tier of difficulty a little bit more commonplace than it is, rather than just saving it for this. Yeah, there are Grandmasters. Grandmasters are a very different playstyle than doing these raids. Most Grandmasters, especially this season, has just been hanging at the back of the map with a Polaris Lance and just plinking away. Whereas the level of coordination and team play that is needed for these -20 Pantheon run, it is so much higher and allows for more aggressive builds to thrive, which really can't happen in GMs. Also, I really do enjoy the changes that have happened to every encounter. For Golgoroth, that's the gaze holders have an extra couple of Minotaurs they have to worry about whilst keeping hold of the gaze. So that's a new aspect you have to worry about. Plus the double unstable, which means everyone's going to be paying attention to where they're standing, even if they're letting the unstable detonate. It makes everyone have to be aware of the entire encounter space, which I think is really fun. Caretaker makes running the symbols a little bit more dangerous and forces you to sometimes have to only grab 2 instead of 3, or maybe even get a third person rotated in with maybe to go collect the symbols, and also making the aggro holders a little bit more difficult by adding a couple of ads that spawn on them. Overall, I think these changes are really good on Caretaker. Like, I don't think Caretaker was too bad to begin with, so I like these couple of changes just to up the ante a little bit more. I think Caretaker is overall inside of the game one of the better designed encounters. Plus, obviously, it was the first real case of like there being a damage gate, but a damage gate that you could kind of overkill on, and that is required to get platinum, including on -20, which means it really does reward good DPS and understanding how to do a good rotation. Third is planets. Now, planets, when I did this with LFG on the 3rd week, took me a total of 12 hours to get done, like flicking between multiple teams and stuff like that. But -20, I just had a better team. The extra lethality of the fire tornadoes coming out a lot more kind of also makes you understand how the damage window works on that boss a lot better. It feels chaotic enough with enough moving parts. Also, I feel like ad clear's job, it doesn't feel semi-pointless. Most ad clear roles are just kind of shoot the guys, but on planets it's really important that the ad clearers do wipe out everything. Otherwise, dunking planets, and especially the topside planets swapping over, they really need that space to be cleared. They can't. It rewards having a good ad clear build and not just focusing on something that's hyper damage. Atrax is still a bit of a joke. We still one-floored Atrax on -20 without any Thunder Crashers. We had 2 Warlocks and 4 Hunters, though I think 4 Blade Barrages and 2 Needle Storms on the Solar and Strand week probably is the reason why. Plus, obviously, Parasite on Solo week. This will be a lot harder on the final week. Yeah, I think Atrax is the one that might need a little bit more changing. Maybe a damage resist or something like that. I don't know what it is. Atrax might need a little bit more tuning for something like this. I don't know what the fix is. Maybe it's just no surges, but we still managed to one-floor it. Oryx is still just like a really easy 2-phase. The changes to Oryx aren't too bad. I think it's better. I just think the pace of which ads spawn in that room is really easy to manage. And I also think Indelic Kindness is just too good. These days, if I can, I'll forego a primary just to run Indelic Kindness. And remember, it was Shot Caller this week, and I didn't run a primary on Oryx. I just used Indelic Kindness Supremacy with Whisper. Yeah, it was a really comfortable 2-floor. Also, I forgot to put Surges on my boots when we did this. And now, Rogue is the encounter which I feel like one of the couple of encounters which has a huge difficulty spike, because you can't just keep it, you have to keep an eye on both of the bosses, which took us a couple of tries just to make sure we were all on the same page for. You know, trying to keep the div up the whole time was a little stressful. You know, and I had to Icarus dash around the map a little bit, but overall, I feel like this encounter is really good. It's an encounter where Well of Radiance doesn't feel super needed or powerful, just based off the hectic running around nature of it, and that's increased by having the 2 rocks there. And overall, I think any encounter which can circumvent the standard stand in place and shoot, I think is good, because it indirectly nerfs Well by making it not as viable. But also at the same time, it's really easy to get Radiant this season, so Well isn't super necessary. It's only there really to keep people alive, because Radiant and Well of Radiance are the same 25% damage buff. Overall, I think Shadow Rock at -20 is really fun and engaging encounter. There's always something for everyone to do. It's very, everyone needs to know what to do encounter, and everyone needs to be aware. And overall, I think that adding the Shadow Rock in was a really good change. So if you haven't seen Riven yet, she is unable to be cheesed, because on the first 2 floors, as you climb up, she has a lot of damage resistance, like major damage resistance, that you're barely doing any of your damage on the way up. You're there to just like chip away a little bit and get her to get to the top floor. But overall, she definitely hurts a lot more, so you got to make sure you're playing the corners well and stuff like that, for if she was breathing fire or slamming the tentacles. Plus, there's a couple of extra invisible ads that spawn. This encounter, I think, the DR is really good, but I'm not sure how true it is, but on the top floor, it felt like she just had her regular health pool. So you can kind of just melt her on the top floor, get her like most of the way down, and then on our way down, pop in the wards. I think I shot 1 before we TP'd back to the Ascendant realm. I don't know why this was. Maybe it's like a time thing. They wanted the encounter to still feel pretty short, so just doing 1 cycle as a whole for the platinum anyway was intended. I'm not too sure, but maybe they could have kept up some of the damage resistance on the top floor, so that if you did a really good wards phase on the way down, you still get the 1 cycle, something like that. We literally did it first try, Riven first try. I did play with a team that did it just before me together, and I just replaced one of them, but they also did it, I think, second or third try, where like a good wards would finish this 1 cycle, as opposed to just like dumping Cataphract on the top floor basically secures it. And then finally Nezarec. This is the one where we spent double the amount of time than the rest of the run on Nezarec, and I think that's partially just down to we didn't know the good spot to stand for damage and ad control. So I ran div for the team on this one. I kind of had to run a double special loadout here, because I had to ad clear middle whilst running div. There's a big boss Colossus in the middle, and I had to dodge around Nezarec whilst my teammate was, taunting Nezarec through the middle as well. So I ended up running Tusk of the Boar to clear out like the lower tier ads. Divinity, obviously, I kept on, and then Commemoration just to mow down all the enemies too. It's a very hectic fight. There's a lot of ads, and ad control is very key to this fight, and it feels way more difficult than the regular version. And that's not just the -20. You have to be on top of the ad clicks. The ads spawn up much more frequently. There's 2 immune Colossuses on either side, which on the left side, which is typically where the light runner is, there is a dark shielded Colossus, and the opposite on the other side there's a light shielded one on Colossus on the dark side. So you have to send extra people over to kill these immune Colossuses whilst they have the corresponding light or dark buff. And then there's a boss one in the middle, and there's a lot of moving parts to this, as opposed to in the normal version where like 2 people need to know what to do and 1 person needs to like just shoot Nezarec in the chest. It feels like Nezzy is a lot more aggressive, but that might just be partly due to the increased, the reduced power level we have. The ads definitely are a lot more intense. Ad clearing is again a lot more vital than it is in the regular version, and it feels like it's a worthy experience for people who want something on the higher difficulty, Like last week I did my Master Crota for my rank 11, and it didn't feel this difficult. Like Master Crota just felt like normal Crota with champions. All these changes that happened throughout Pantheon I wish kind of were implemented back into their regular versions without the the minus power level, especially Riven. And I don't know if that's something they're going to do in the future. maybe because they kind of did something similar with Crota back in Destiny 1, where during the Age of Triumph, they redid a lot of how Crota worked, especially the bridge encounter. They kind of semi-remastered it in D1 anyway. So if they took some of the ideas that they did throughout the Pantheon realm, these added mechanics, and put them back into the regular raids without the difficulty increase, I think that'd be a good change for people in general. It will make them a little bit more difficult, especially Nezzy and Rogue. I think Nezzy and Rogue are two of my favorite changes. And it's partially down to the fact that those bosses are, walk around bosses anyway. They're not stand and shoot bosses. But the added chaos of the ads being up and having to deal with everything definitely made them a lot more difficult. I hope we see more content at this difficulty in the future in Final Shape, and I hope the rewards for these kind of things are just as cool. Like, I've not been excited to get a title in Destiny in forever. Like, the last one I really cared about was Blacksmith. I only like used my Blacksmith or Ravensbane titles. Getting Godslayer kind of feels like it actually means something in the game, and not like I just ticked off a checklist. Especially for those old, like a lot of the raid titles, single raid titles, this is like beat the raid with like all Void people. I'm like, bruh. And especially when you can just switch at the end of the encounter, it's kind of like, doesn't really have a lot of merit to it. For Godslayer, you just have to beat all the encounters and then also beat all the encounters with the high scores, which are rewarded based off time and efficiency. So it kind of proves that you do know how to DPS well and manage ads well, and also obviously do it at an appropriate level. Overall, Pantheon was really, really good. If I had to change, if they wanted to do something again, I'm not a huge fan of the surges. If they do surges again, maybe reduce the potency of them to maybe 15%, maybe, so they don't feel like they're super hardcore necessary to beat the encounters, especially last week when it was Arc and Stasis Surge, when just a lot of the good weapons just aren't Stasis or Arc. Then again, Solar is already definitely the best element in the game in terms of damage. Like, a lot of the best weapons are Solar, plus Golden Gun is the best like burst damage super 2, so it's kind of and obviously is really good, and Pyrogales isn't bad either. Pyrogales is very, very usable too in that kind of format. Yeah, if we could get rid of the modifiers or reduce the potency a little bit and keep the -20 content coming, and keep the rewards flowing for those kind of activities, I feel like that's the kind of stuff people have been wanting in the game for a long time. And it's really engaging and rewarding and fulfilling content that rewards our newfound power level that we've had in Destiny basically since Subclasses 3.0. Because if you play Strikes and you're running a full like Restoration 2 Sunbraces build, like, there's no real point in it. You don't need it. It doesn't feel needed or necessary. Whereas something like, ad clearing of planets, Resto 2 Sunbraces is really fucking good at keeping you alive whilst clearing all the ads. It's actually really useful. I hope everyone who's also trying to get Godslayer can get it out before it goes away. Yeah, like and subscribe. Bye everyone.